Hey class, welcome back. I'm so glad everybody is able to teach everybody, whether it's virtually or in the classroom this year. We're going to jump right into this, and the first week, or actually our first unit, is ancient Mesopotamia, and we're going to talk about the overview today, a little bit of about what we're going to talk about this whole unit. Mesopotamia was the very first civilization. Uh, Before then, people didn't get together and have big communities, and they just started, and it was a place for them to gather uh, for farming, and it was in between two rivers called the Tigris and the Euphrates River. So it was really the start of civilization, or as we know it now. And yeah, yes, it was thousands of years ago, but it was the very start of it. You know, they had all kinds of inventions, all kinds of everything. But this is who we're talking about today, and we're going to jump right into it. And I hope you enjoy this lesson. So, ancient Mesopotamia refers to a place where humans first formed civilizations. If you look right here, it was called the cradle of civilization. Uh, and you can see why all this was fertile area, fertile farmland for them to plant their crops and irrigate and stuff. But they were some of the first to large cities. They learned to write. It was the first of writing, first time that anybody write, and they created governments. Back then, they were creating governments back then, way back then. So, and if you look up here, I've got a little cradle picture up here, and it's kind of similar. That's why it's called the cradle of civilization.
What is Mesopotamia? Ancient Mesopotamia refers to the place where humans first formed civilizations. It was here that people first gathered in large cities, learned to write, and created governments. For this reason, Mesopotamia is often called the cradle of civilization.
All right, a little bit about the geography of Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia means the land between rivers. And if you look right here, these are two rivers. You got the Euphrates River, and you got the Tigris River. And this land in between it, this was Mesopotamia. And it was really good for farming because you had two rivers. They could gather water from those two rivers and to irrigate their farms, their crops. So, but it refers to that. That's what Mesopotamia means, the land between two rivers. And like I said, it's in between the Euphrates and the Tigris rivers.
Geography. The word Mesopotamia means the land between rivers. When people say Mesopotamia, they are referring to a section of land in the Middle East between and around the Tigris and Euphrates rivers.
All right. Today, this land is mostly located in the country of Iraq. All right. The country of Iraq is where this land is located. If you look right here, you can see the rivers. There's the Euphrates, and over here's the Tigris rivers. The land there, like I said, it's fertile. There's plenty of water because of the two rivers, and it allows for irrigation for farming. So, and that's that was one of the first people to irrigate for farming. So that's another first that they did.
Geography continued. Today, this land is located mostly in the country of Iraq. There are also portions in southwestern Iran, southeastern Turkey, and northeastern Syria. The heart of the Mesopotamia lies between two rivers in southern Iraq. The land there is fertile, and there's plenty of water around the major two rivers to allow for irrigation and farming.
All right, so we got civilizations and empires here. If you look right here, this is how they would gather their irrigation for farming. They'd gather the water up so they could have plenty of water for their crops and all. But as they learned how to irrigate, they learned how to irrigate the land. They learned how to grow large farms. And then another thing they did, they had new inventions such as government and writing. All right, like I said, they were the first people to start writing. There wasn't any writing before that. Now, their writing, albeit their writing looked a whole lot different than what ours looks like now. But it was done out of like a clay tablet, and while it was still wet, they would take lines and put in it to make words. And I'm gonna show you a picture of that here in just a moment. And then when it hardened, guess what? They've got a document, just like we have on paper. So But it was the first human civilization was formed through this.
Civilizations and empires. Early settlers in Mesopotamia started together in small villages and towns. As they learned how to irrigate land and grow crops on large farms, the towns grew bigger. Eventually, these towns became large cities. New inventions such as government and writing were formed to help keep order in the cities. The first human civilization was formed.
All right, the Sumer. The Sumer is this area of land right here, okay? And the Sumerians, who were the people of the Sumer, they were the first humans to form a civilization. All right, yes, they're part of Mesopotamia, but the Sumer or the Sumerians were the first to form the civilization, and they invented writing and government. All right, like I said, Mesopotamia is one big land, but these are different regions of people, different people. You had the Sumerians, you had the Acadians, you had the Babylonians. Eventually, you had the Persians. All right, but they formed. They invented writing. They invented government, and this would pave the way for future civilizations to come. All of this would. They also, with their government, it was kind of similar to Greece. And if you've had my class before, we talked about Greece. And Greece, they had what was called city-states. And we'll get into that more in detail. But right now, we're just touching on it as an overview.
Civilizations and empires continued. Sumer. The Sumerians were the first humans to form a civilization. They invented writing and government. They were organized in city-states where each city had its own independent government ruled by a king that controlled the city and the surrounding farmland. Each city also had its own primary god. Sumerian writing, government, and culture would pave the way for future civilizations.
All right, so you had the Acadians. They're called the Acadians. All right, I made the mistake of calling them Acadians on here, so y'all just gonna have to. I'm making myself a correction for myself. It's the Acadians. All right, they came next, and they were the first people to form a united empire, where the city-states of the Sumer were united under one ruler, and it might have looked something like this here. But the Akkadian language eventually replaced, because the Sumerian language was the primary language before that, and it primarily replaced everything through Mesopotamia. The Akkadian language did.
Acadian civilization. Acadians. The Acadians came next. They formed the first united empire where the city-states of Sumer were united under one ruler. The Akkadian language replaced the Sumerian language during this time. It would be the main language throughout much of the history of Mesopotamia.
All right, then you had the Babylonians. All right, the Babylonians, they had this. Their ruler was King Hammurabi, which we'll get into later. All right, but the Babylon eventually became the most powerful city in Mesopotamia, and they were first to write down laws and record a system of laws, and that it was called the Code of Hammurabi, because after King Hammurabi, he's the one that had all this done, and we'll talk more about him as we go through this unit.
Babylonians. The city of Babylon became the most powerful city in Mesopotamia. Throughout the history of the region, the Babylonians would rise and fall. At times, the Babylonians would create vast empires that ruled much of the Middle East. The Babylonians were the first to write down and record their system of law.
All right, so we got some comprehension questions here, and what I want you to do with these, I'm going to go over them, but I still want you to go and read through the actual Google Slides yourself, and then answer the questions, and then turn it in through Schoology. So, what is Mesopotamian often called? A, the cradle of civilization. B, Rome, or C, Greece? It's A, the cradle of civilization. Remember the cradle I had as the picture at the very first of it? It's cradle of civilization.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner.
All right. Number 2, what does the word Mesopotamia mean? Does it mean A, city, B, land between rivers, or C, nothing? It means B, land between rivers.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a
And the
winner.
reason being, Mesopotamia was between these two rivers. And it was very fertile land, very fertile for farming, growing crops, and it was easy because they had rivers on both sides of them. All right, number 3, what country is Mesopotamia mostly located in today? Is it A, Iraq, B, Greece, or C, Italy? It is A, Iraq.
Ding, ding,
If
ding.
you look here on the picture, you can even see the rivers. You got the Euphrates rivers and Tigris rivers here. But Iraq is where it was mostly located today. Number 4, who were the first humans to form a civilization? Yes, it was the Mesopotamians, but there was a particular group of Mesopotamians that formed it. Was it A, Americans, B, Europeans, or C, Sumerians? It is C, the Sumerians.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a
They
winner.
were not only the first humans to form a civilization, they were first to form a government, and they were first to write, form writing, and have writing. So they did a lot of firsts. Number 5, what did the Mesopotamians invent? A, writing and government, B, farming, or C, America? A, writing and government is what they invented, or that's just a couple of the things they invented. One of the things they invented, and we'll get into later,
we have a winner.
They invented the wheel as well. One of the earliest wheels was found in Mesopotamia. And they think they probably invented it. You ride on a car, you have a car that has 4 wheels now. Well, that could be thanks to the Mesopotamians. But anyway, this is our lesson for the day. I'll come back tomorrow, or was my tomorrow our lesson will be on the Sumer, and we'll go more into detail about the Sumerians and what they did. So you all have a good day.